2019 is coming to an end, and what a year it's been for the Premier League. So today we're going to look at all 20 current Premier League clubs and pick out their best moment of the year, and that includes all other competitions, not just the Premier League. Arsenal sacking Unai Emery. You should never revel in a man losing his job, but there were more tears of joy than anger when Arsenal announced they'd parted ways with Unai Emery on November 29th. The Spaniard had been drafted in to re-steady the Arsenal ship, tasked with taking the club forward after the legendary Arsene Wenger departed. And while there were good moments for Emery, things quickly began to unravel. Had he won the Europa League final, things might have been different, but Arsenal have been shocking this season. Key players haven't performed, the defence has been quite frankly atrocious, while Emery has had his own bother with his players, as well as feeling the wrath of Arsenal fans TV. They'll be glad to see the back of Emery, who was unable to bring the good times back to Arsenal. Aston Villa, the playoff final. There was no way it could have been anything else, as this was the day that Aston Villa sealed their rightful place back in the Premier League. Villa are a huge club, and one that looked out of place in the Championship. And thanks to Dean Smith, they're no longer in it. The former Brentford man took us out on a brilliant run, winning 10 games in a row to seal a place in the top 6, setting up a playoff semi-final with West Brom. The Baggies took it all the way to penalties, but Jed Steer's heroics put Villa in the final against Derby County. Goals from Anwar El Ghazi and John McGinn won it at Wembley, and they are both two players who have really impressed in the Premier League. Villa are back, and their job now is to stay there. Bournemouth beating Chelsea 4-0. At the start of the decade, Bournemouth had never played a game of Premier League football. But on the 30th of January 2019, the Cherries welcomed Chelsea to Dean Court, going on to win 4-0. Josh King scored 2, David Brooks got in the act, then Bournemouth legend Charlie Daniels made it 4 in stoppage time. Eddie Howe's side have had some great wins in 2019, but this one against Chelsea stands out as their finest. They absolutely destroyed the Blues, making them look ordinary in the process. If you didn't know at the start of the game, you'd have thought Bournemouth were the former Champions League winners, not Chelsea. Brighton starting this season with a 3-0 win over Watford. On the face of it, this doesn't sound too exciting. Brighton managed to survive last season, and they've also had convincing wins over Tottenham in 2019. But the 3-0 over Watford on the opening day of the season signalled a new era for the Seagulls, with Graham Potter getting off to the perfect start. They played nice football, a completely different style to last season, and scored 3 goals away from home. In contrast, their Premier League safety last season was confirmed by someone else, while that win over Tottenham was against a woeful Spurs side. But that season opener against Watford was the sign of a new dawn for fans on the south coast. Burnley, the emergence of Dwight McNeil. There isn't a specific date you can put on this, but the emergence of Dwight McNeil at Burnley this year has been wonderful to watch. While he debuted in 2018, 2019 has really seen McNeil solidify himself as a star at Turf Moor, rather than just a young academy player getting some minutes. The winger is perfect to how Burnley play. He's an old school winger, he'll run at fullbacks, get chalk on his boots and deliver wicked crosses into the box for the likes of Ashley Barnes and Chris Wood to attack. McNeil is a top player and one who could play for an even bigger club in the future. For now though, he's a fan favourite in Lancashire. Chelsea winning the Europa League. The Blues won a trophy this year, beating Arsenal in the Europa League, handing Maurizio Sarri his first ever trophy. It was just a beautiful sight. The little Italian was so happy with his medal, finally sitting at the top of the mountain. He left not long after though, but that's not the point. The Europa League final was a twofold win for Chelsea, as it gave them a major honour and also ensured rivals Arsenal wouldn't qualify for the Champions League. It was also Eden Hazard's Chelsea goodbye, putting in a typical performance of a man of his quality, stepping up in a major final and riding off into the sunset with another medal around his neck. Crystal Palace beating Manchester United at Old Trafford. The Eagles have had some exciting wins in 2019, but the one at Old Trafford early this season is probably the pick of the lot. Palace took the lead early on, before being pegged back by a Dan James equaliser in the 89th minute. It wasn't over there though, as Parry van Aanholt snatched a last minute winner for Roy Hodgson and co, kicking off a brilliant start of the new campaign. Palace have done really well, and it all really started when PVA netted a 93rd minute winner in front of more than 70,000 people at Old Trafford. Everton drawing 0-0 with Liverpool. On the face of it, a 0-0 draw against your rivals isn't that exciting, but this one meant a lot more to Everton fans in what has been a pretty awful year for the club. Not much has gone right at Goodison Park in 2019, so at least they can take some joy in the disappointment of others. In March, Liverpool arrived at Goodison Park, looking to continue their pursuit of the Premier League title. But unfortunately for the Reds, they couldn't find a way past Jordan Pickford, who clung on for a point. While it was only a point for Everton, it was 2 dropped for Liverpool, who eventually fell narrowly short in their pursuit of the Premier League title to Manchester City. Leicester City appointing Brendan Rodgers. Everything good about Leicester in 2019 came after one moment, and that was sacking Claude Puel and replacing him with Brendan Rodgers. The last time he was in the Premier League, he was a David Brent-style character struggling under the Anfield spotlight, but now he's a reformed manager, toughened by his experiences north of the border, winning trophy after trophy with Celtic. But the Foxes handed Rodgers a route back to the big time, and he was right not to pass it up. Leicester have been excellent since he took over, and are now one of the best teams in the division, seen by some as Liverpool's closest challengers to this season's Premier League title. Liverpool winning the Champions League. An obvious best moment, that night in Madrid was magical for everyone associated with the Liverpool Football Club, and it was a trophy they richly deserved. Klopp's men had enjoyed an excellent season, ultimately falling short of Man City. It seemed wrong they could end the campaign empty-handed, and looked like they would when they kicked off the semi-final against Barcelona with a 3-0 defeat at the Nou Camp. But an incredible second leg at Anfield set up an All-English Champions League final, with Liverpool facing Tottenham in Madrid. Of course, it was the Reds who would win it thanks to goals from Salah and Origi, leading to mad celebrations in Spain and back in Liverpool. It was their 6th European Cup and their first since that incredible night in Istanbul. Manchester City, Vincent Kompany's winner against Leicester. While the win at Brighton sealed the Premier League title, it was this goal that pretty much wrapped it up. City was struggling to get ahead against Leicester, knowing that they needed to win to keep the title race in their hands. Then up he steps, Captain Fantastic Vincent Kompany, scoring one of the goals of the season to win the game and pretty much win the title. If this was Aguero, it would have been special, but considering this was the centre-back captain who was set to leave at the end of the season, it was the stuff of legend. As Gary Neville said on commentary, "Where do you want your statue, Vincent Kompany?" Manchester United, the Champions League win away to PSG. 2019 hasn't been pretty for Manchester United, limping through the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era, despite the man looking dead to rights on more than one occasion. But in the Champions League, Ole and his side enjoyed a special night in Paris. Man United had lost the first leg at home to PSG, meaning they had to get a result in France. A Romelu Lukaku bracelet to Manchester United in front of the break, but they still needed another goal to go through. Arise Marcus Rashford. They were awarded a late and contentious penalty for handball, and cool as you like, Rashford slotted it home in the 94th minute to put Ole's makeshift side through to the quarter-finals. A special night and probably Solskjaer's finest so far. Newcastle United beating Man City 2-1. When you concede in the first minute to Man City, you just know it's not your day. Newcastle fans probably couldn't believe what they were watching, as Sergio Aguero put City ahead just seconds after kicking off in a freezing cold night in the north. Fans will have wished they'd stayed at home, but Rafa Benitez had a plan. For all their possession, Newcastle stifled City and were able to draw level thanks to Salomon Rondon. It wasn't over there though. Man City's attempts to play off in the backfield, Sean Longstaff-Pounds only to be brought down in the area by Fernandinho. And despite Edison's efforts to put Matt Ritchie off, Newcastle went 2-1 up and hung on for an incredible 3 points against the champions. Norwich City beating Man City 3-2. Newcastle weren't the only team to beat Man City this season, Norwich managed it too, proving they'd really arrived in the Premier League. The Canaries caught City cold in September, going 2-0 up within half an hour. Aguero got one back before the break, but Pukki would then make it 3-1. City weren't able to respond until the 88th minute through Rodri, but by then it was too late, as Norwich held on for a famous 3-2 win. No matter what happens this season, Norwich will struggle to top this result. Sheffield United winning promotion. Before this season, Sheffield United hadn't played in the Premier League since 2007. But on April 28th they sealed their place back in the big time, with Leeds unable to beat Villa and take the race for promotion at the final day. The fact that Sheffield United got promoted is remarkable. Chris Wilder had a pretty small budget, he played football like no one else in the division, and had not long before been managing the club in the third tier of English football. But he's got them back to the Premier League, where they're holding their own against some of the best teams around. Southampton coming from behind to beat Tottenham 2-1. It's been an awful year for Southampton, but they might be playing championship football had it not been for this win against Spurs in March. Harry Kane put the visitors ahead, but a late comeback from the Saints made it back-to-back wins and kept them outside the bottom three. Jan Valery got the equaliser, but it was local hero James Ward-Prowse who won it, with a trademark free kick keeping his side's head above water. Tottenham, the Champions League semi-final versus Ajax. Had it not been for a goal in the 96th minute, Liverpool would have played Ajax in this year's Champions League final. But a Lucas Moura-inspired Tottenham side ensured Pochettino was going to Madrid. Spurs lost the first leg, then suddenly found themselves 2-0 down in Amsterdam as well. but a second half display from Lucas Moura changed the tie, scoring a hat-trick to knock out Ajax and send Spurs to the final, and ensure he'll never have to buy a drink in North London ever again. Watford, the FA Cup semi-final versus Wolves. After 62 minutes of the FA Cup semi-final, it looked like Wolves would be taking on Manchester City in the final. But that all changed, as Watford took the game to extra time, Troy Deeney making it 2-2 in the 4th minute of stoppage time in front of a packed out Wembley Stadium. At an extra time, it was Gerard Deulofeu who completed the comeback, making it 3-2 to the Hornets, ensuring their fans will be walking down Wembley Way once again come May, tasked with stopping the seemingly unstoppable Manchester City. West Ham beating Tottenham away. Tottenham's new stadium is a thing of beauty, and West Ham will always have the honour of being the first team to beat them there. Having gone unbeaten in the first 5 games, Manuel Pellegrini's side etched their names into the history books, with Michail Antonio scoring the only goal of the game to give West Ham 3 points. They've had big London derby wins in 2019, but this one probably tasted the sweetest for the Hammers. Wolves qualifying for the Europa League knockout stages. Wolves' brilliant Premier League campaign earned them a spot in this year's Europa League, and so far they've been excellent. After navigating a tricky qualifying campaign, they've also managed to make it through the group stages, coming second ahead of a big team like Besiktas. They ended the group stage just a point behind Braga in first place, and are more than holding their own on the European stage. But just how far can they go in the competition? So that's every Premier League club's best moment of 2019. Let us know what your club's is in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and have a happy new year from HITC.